Hello again, everyone. Welcome in. This is Kevin Hissong with Reign Over Money. Welcome to episode 21. Today, we're going to be talking about the psychology of money. That is the psychology of both really money and investing. So thanks again for coming in. Kevin Hissong, Reign Over Money. You can visit us at reignovermoney.com or visit us on Instagram or Twitter at the call sign Reign Over Money. So let's jump right into it for the next 20 minutes or so. Today, we are talking about the psychology of money. And of course, we got to talk about what do I mean by that? Well, psychology is the study of the mind and behavior. So it's how our mind behaviors go towards money and towards investing. And I think the best thing to say is if you have an idea when you're getting or as you're starting to get money, or as you're starting to work a career or getting out of school, even in school, really, it can never start too young, is what is your belief about money and what is it really there for? I think if you would, take me as an example, going back to the early part of my life, growing up and even in high school and everything, money was a device and a thing to buy things. It was very material. And over the years, I think I was lucky in a way because for one reason or another, I got turned on to investing. And in getting a job, I enjoyed getting money and kind of starting to save and keep money. There was a great security about it, having money and being able to do things with that money. And now over time, as I've gotten into my late 40s, I think money is definitely the security side of it is one thing, but the other thing is the flexibility and time. Really, those two things, flexibility and time, is what is important about money to me now. It's what those things can do, because those are the most important things now to me, outside of my family, is how much flexibility do I have in my life, and how much time do I have to do the things I want to do, not what someone else wants me to do, but what I want to do. And I think if you would ask most people, I think once you get to a point, material things don't matter as much anymore. Sure, I'd love to have a new shirt every now and then, new pair of shoes, whatever it is, something for golf. Those things are still matter. And from time to time, they make you feel good. Just go out and buy something. But it for a lot of people, it becomes less and less over time. I think about my mom in her 80s now and what's important to her. And it's really spending time with friends, spending time with family, doing things that she likes to do. And it really has nothing to do with wants and material things in life. So it's just something that it usually goes the same way throughout life. You go through that spectrum of finding the different meanings of money. And so first I'm going to talk about money, and then we're going to talk about the investing side, because the two go hand in hand. But you can't worry about investing unless you have a good grasp on the psychology and your mind and your behavior when it comes to money itself. So where do we start with that? Well, again, getting jobs, working early in your career, and you're never too young or never too old, I should say, to start this process. If you've had trouble with money over your life and now you're getting to a point where, hey, I've got some things figured out. Maybe I've got a better job now. I've got some debts paid off, whatever it may be. And I'm really ready to start having money work for me in many different ways. And money working for you can be, buying stocks and having dividends pay for you, buying rental houses that pay you rent to create more income, whatever it may be, or really just putting your money in the bank and having it gain some interest or CDs. So money working for you is something great. But money can work for you in a lot of ways. And that's really just one of them that we think about. So the psychology of money, and it's very tough right now in our society because it's always been tough. I mean, everyone's always wanted to buy things and have more money, and you figure the more money you have, the happiness. And there's been studies done on that say, I think $80,000 to $100,000 total income is like the maximum happiness factor for people. Those that make over that and those that make under that are not as happy, and those that make over that, it's diminishing returns over over time. So it's not making $1 million a year isn't going to make you that much happier. People still have issues in life. There's still things that go on in life that money cannot solve. But the main thing I think that most people find out, and why that maybe 80,000 to 100,000 is an important number, is because once you start making that kind of money, maybe you can get your debts paid off, have a little money in the bank, have a retirement account, do things for your kids, maybe help them with college, whatever it may be. So, it adds that security layer. And again, that's what it comes back to, is security, and then translating to if and when you're able to retire, is the time that it can afford you to do the things you want to do. A lot of people think of travel. Sure, a lot of people retire and they really compact that travel into the first few years because that's important to them and they want to get out and see the world or whatever it may be. But on and on over the years of retirement, again, studies have been found that most people's enjoyment levels for travel decline over the years, and their most enjoyment is hanging out, spending time with family, and so on, and friends. So again, not that important for the material things. It's more the mindset of having the time to do what you want to do, and that's what. I guess what we're trying to create here with Reign Over Money is develop some good habits and good ways and kind of give you a pathway to allow money to be that thing that can help you and not hinder you in your life, so that it can free you up to do the things you want to do. So the mindset with money, as I said, can be a little tough. It's always been tough, but right now, especially if you get too tied into social media, and I'll even take the social out of that. I think the media as a whole can really scare you about money. And I think you see it a lot with, I think back to when I was on the investment side of things and working with individuals as an investment advisor. And, the older you get, you tend to get more and more conservative with your money. And it doesn't help when there's a level of fear that's out there always about the markets, about the economy, about inflation. I mean, you would think that the world's just the world. If we were to listen to everyone all of our time, the world would have ended economically. We would have had a crisis about every 2 years, and we would all have gone through the Great Depression about 42 times by my calculations, and that's just in the last 20 years. So there's so much negativity out there, and unfortunately, a lot of the people that, from a media standpoint and social media standpoint, that people go to for their financial advice, I think of kind of the Mount Rushmore of finance. Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, who else? CNBC. So many people go to CNBC for their news on the markets and on money and so on and so forth. But why I've kind of soured a bit on Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman is they went from, I feel like, a really hopeful and helpful part of it to really selling on fear and really being negative to people that come to them with questions. And I don't know, maybe it's the way you get likes and it's the way you get hits now and everything else, but there's just almost a nastiness to the level. And I don't know if that's supposed to be funny or entertaining or whatever. Obviously it's working well for them because they're selling books and all this stuff, and you probably tune in to them more than you would me. But at the same point, that's why I want to try and keep this positive, because there is a lot of positivity out there, and things are never as bad as they seem when it comes to the money and investing and the stock market. If you look back over 80 years, 100 years, stock market, the S&P 500, pretty much the best place to put your money. It's boring. There's a whole industry. It's kind of like weight loss. There's a whole industry for weight loss out there. But if you really think about it, we all know what to do to have, pretty stable weight. I mean, exercise, vegetables, fruits, get rid of the sugars. It's not rocket science, but it's very tough because a lot of people either don't want to do that or they want to take the shortcuts and be able to have their cake and eat it too, literally and figuratively. But the same can be said for the investment world. It would be real boring and we wouldn't have this whole industry if it was just everyone did the same thing and put their money in the S&P 500 and just let it go. And like the John Bogles and the Warren Buffetts of the world, who, by the way, are probably two of the best and smartest people it comes to when you're talking about investing. Those are the people to listen to, not the Dave Ramsey's and the CNBCs of the world and so on and so forth. But I digress. Going back to that, if we all just followed a simple path and just invested some money over time in the stock market, chances are, and left that money alone. I mean, that's the key. Left that money alone, it would grow. We'd get our 7-8% average returns annually, and over the long term, obviously, because it can go down or go up in any market, and we'd be all okay. But that's not the case. One of the best sayings out there, unfortunately, over 25 years, I heard it way too much, but it's still a great line, is it's time in the market, not timing the market. And I even hate to say it because I'm so tired of it, but it's so true. Trading doesn't really work. You can look at technical analysis and fundamental analysis and this and that when it comes to the stock market, whatever, and listen to the the consensus on these people that make millions of dollars a year being research analysts for the big firms and the Morgan Stanleys and the Goldman Sachs and whatever, talking about what stocks to buy and what stocks to hold and what stocks to sell. Again, we really don't need it. Just the S&P 500 over the long term, quality companies invested over the long term, you're going to be fine. But again, that's talking about the investing side of things. Getting back to just the money side of it, it's the same thing. If you're watching CNBC every night, oh, of course. Well, the one I forgot, I talk about CNBC, but the one I forgot is Jim Cramer, another one who it's pure entertainment. He's there for entertainment value. It's you may pick up some nuggets of knowledge here and there, but it's pure entertainment, and he's making calls on stocks every night. Which I still don't know how he can do without a ton of disclosure. But again, that's because it's entertainment purposes. So, getting your financial advice from Jim Cramer and Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, 10 to 15% of it's really good. How they made a name for themselves was really good stuff. Nowadays, it's a bunch of fluff and hooey, I think. And so with that, you have to have an idea of what's your outlook about money. And I don't know how you get that. I was actually having an exchange the other day on somebody on Twitter, and we were talking about one of the most valuable lessons about money. And we both agreed the most valuable lesson about money is to somehow understand the idea of delayed gratification. It is the hardest thing because we all want. And the downside is when you start getting money, if it's in your 20s or 30s, there's a lot of things you want. And if you're just starting out your life, you want a house, you want a car, you want a family, you want, all the clothes and everything you see on social media and everything. And I know I'm really banging on social media, but I am for this episode. There's just so many things you want. And I don't know where that delayed gratification comes from. My wife and I were both lucky enough to share that. And so investing in our 401k as soon as we had a chance, increasing our 401k when we got raises instead of going out and, taking on a $500 or $600 or $800 now car payment. It's something I didn't want, because doing that, getting a $700 or $800 car payment, to me is more stress. I don't want more stress. I want my money to do some things for me that are going to afford me the chance down the road to, buy a car with cash. And maybe it's not a brand new car. Maybe it's a couple years old used car. But there's still plenty of super nice used cars. Trust me, we've been doing it for the last 15 years or so. That's the way to go. Same thing with a house. Could have afforded $1 million house probably at 26, 27 years old. But no, first house we bought was $150,000. Second house we bought, I think, was $270,000, and this house was like $575,000. So slowly, methodically over time, taking what we've earned, building the equity in our house, and then using it to buy a larger house if we needed it. And as each point in our life has come, we've needed it. Again, it's that delayed gratification. It can be a 5-year delayed gratification. It can be a 20-year delayed gratification, or in your case of retirement, it's 35, 40 years of working to get to that point. But you have to find a way. And I don't mean, and I think this is the struggle between the wants now and delayed gratification. There can be a happy medium. We've bought plenty of things, and we used to joke in our earlies, in our 25 and 26 years and everything, when we were that age, we would go out and fill up the entire car with stuff at Bed Bath & Beyond. Most of it was just a lot of crap, Bed Bath & Beyond and World Market and Pier 1. We just buy so much stuff for the house. It was crazy. But that's just what happens when you're young. But at the same point, we never stopped contributing to our 401k. And at the time, we were also contributing a little bit a month to a brokerage account. And just by doing that, we knew that we were taking care of ourselves. And as long as we weren't spending more than we could afford to spend and not increasing our debt, that's the recipe for success. If you can live on less than you make, not carry debt forward on a month-to-month basis, especially credit cards, reduce your monthly outgoing costs, paid off our car, paid off our student loan early. House debt was always there, but it was a reasonable house debt. So if you can reduce those things, and I think that's something you have to watch for now, because that seems to be the MO of many companies that are trying to get you to work with them, whether it's, cable and subscriptions to streaming services or whatever, or clothing companies or whatever, or food delivery companies. It's everyone's wanting you to subscribe monthly to things. And the more and more you subscribe monthly, that is just a constant net expense that's coming out each month. And you've got to stay away from that, because eventually there's going to be a creep in there, and that's going to keep creeping up, and you're probably not going to keep up with it when it comes to how much money you're making. And there's going to come a time that you realize, oh my goodness, we're spending more than we bring in just on fixed costs alone, let alone the variable costs of food and whatever and what have you going forward. So keeping those at a minimum, keeping the expenses at minimums, still spending and still enjoying, you can go out to dinner, you can do some things, try and avoid the coffees every day, as Susie Orman, when she was in her good days, that's one thing she harped on all the time, but it's true. And Dave Ramsey, when he was in his good days, talking about getting out of debt, reducing debt. You've got to be debt free to start. I don't know if you need to be debt free to start doing other things, but you got to keep debt at a minimum. You got to keep your expenses low. You've got to be investing for your future. So you got to be doing all these things. That's, spinning a lot of plates. But once you get used to it, and once everything's automated, you don't have to think about it. And it's there, and you can just start increasing it over the years. And you just got to trust in the market. I don't care what CNBC and the internet and Twitter or X or whatever people you follow say, the markets are going to be all right. We've survived 100 years. We're going to survive probably another 100 years. The Johnson & Johnsons and their stocks that they pay out, the AT&Ts, the Verizons, the utility companies, the Cloroxes of the world. I mean, there's all these boring companies out there that continue to pay dividends through thick and thin over the years that are going to be just fine. Now, I know right now there are some big companies that are in a little trouble. I know Disney's been in a little trouble for a little while with their stock and the company as a whole, but over time, I still believe that they're going to be fine. And now is probably an opportunity to be buying things like that, things that are really beat down. So Oracle came out with numbers yesterday, and they weren't good, and the stock was down like 12 or 13%. That's one day. Time in the market, not timing the market. So, you got $1,000 or $2,000 to put towards that. Put it towards Oracle, and they're down 12%. That's on sale. That's a discount, man. And, 20, 30 years down the road, you're going to be reaping the benefits from that going forward. So this episode's a little bit of rambling, but maybe it just gives you a little insight into my mindset and my psychology on money and investing, that I think we're all trying to make it too hard. And of course, the And I have a lot of great friends that are financial advisors, and the financial industry has done a lot of great for a lot of people. But I think also at the same time, they can make things seem harder than it is. That these are massive experts. Now, if you've got a giant estate plan, you've got some tax issues, you're selling a business, you get an inheritance, you don't know what to do with it. Yeah, financial advisor's fantastic. But if you're just kind of starting from scratch, getting things rolling, or you're in a good place now with money and you need to know what to do next, just start putting some money away in the market and let it do its thing over time. And don't be scared off. You shouldn't. CNBC doesn't give you enough information for you to really. There's nothing there. I use it to get my quotes. That's the only thing. It's CNBC is a giant ticker symbol or streaming ticker symbol for me. That's all CNBC is. Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, those folks. I think of Dave Ramsey, I think get out of debt. That's the only thing I think about. And it's the only thing I'm ever going to think about with him. I don't care what he talks about now. Susie Orman, don't buy coffee at Starbucks every day. That's, makes sense to me and good enough going forward. But outside of that, there's nothing more that they're going to tell me that is going to change my worldview on things. Now, Warren Buffett, he has some insights. Jeremy Siegel, who I believe is at Harvard, professor at Harvard, fantastic, very smart, just intelligent. There's no negativity. Now, these people may say, the Warren Buffetts of the world, the Jeremy Siegels, even when Bogle was around, John Bogle with Vanguard before he passed away, you can say that now is not a good time for the market, but you don't have to be negative about it. I mean, we have to all understand that the market economies all go through cycles, and there are good cycles and bad cycles. And usually the good cycles far outweigh the bad cycle. We will not have giant inflation forever. Interest rates are at these levels where we can't believe it, but you go back to the 80s, this still is nothing compared to what they were dealing with in the 80s when it comes to inflation. We're just not used to it. So 7 and 8% mortgages, we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But 2 and 3% was fairy tale world, and hopefully you took advantage of it. Because now is not really the time to be buying a house or getting a mortgage or a second mortgage or having debt, period, because interest rates are extremely high unless you've got a fixed interest rate mortgage from the past few years. Hold on to that, and hopefully you're not taking your 2 or 3% mortgage and going to buy a new house and paying 7 or 8% for a new mortgage. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you got questions, comments, feel free to reach out to Reign Over Money. Reach out to me on Twitter. Shoot me an email at kevin@reignovermoney.com. Visit the website for more resources, information. I'll put a couple links to folks I talked about, like Jeremy Siegel, obviously Warren Buffett, probably one of the greatest investors of all time out there as well, if you do want to do some additional reading. And there's a lot of books on behavioral finance and the psychology of money. And, if that's of interest to you, take a look and read it. We just hit the tip of the iceberg, but it's really all about deciding what you want money to do for you down the road. And as I said, for me, it's time and flexibility. Those are the two most important things. Trust me, I love not having to do something on someone else's time schedule other than my kids and my wife. and I can deal with that because I like them a lot. So, but not having someone to tell me where I got to be, when I got to be there, taking a meeting and doing a meeting, no thanks. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. That's the end of episode 21, Psychology of Money and Investing. Again, my name is Kevin Hissong with Reign Over Money. Thanks so much for joining us, and you all have a good day, and we'll see you again soon.